What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again this evening for another news, if you will, update on upcoming stuff. What's hitting us tonight in Dragon Ball Legends. You may have already seen if you've been following them on social media, but of course we're looking at a brand new Zenkai for LF Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, as well as the original Red Perfect Cell. So we're checking out both of those real quick as we can anyway, and then checking out some associated new or recycle banners that we'll be getting in the game, as well as some of the events and possibly even the new equipment, stuff like that. Basically all the stuff for the update. Kind of want to run through it as quick as I can. The Gohan is extremely impressive and definitely worth looking at, and should be some ways for even free-to-play players to get him, provided you're lucky enough to have him at 7 stars. Unfortunately, that is always like a thorn in the side of all of these Zenkai units. So with that being said, I'm going to jump on over to the internet. Of course, if I forget anything in the video, feel free to let me know down in the comments. If you're new here, consider subscribing so I can see you again on all future uploads. Might be doing some stuff with the Avengers game, starting like, I don't know, maybe as soon as tomorrow, like stream it, I don't know, figure that out later. We're going to stay on track here though. So, jumping in, we're going to check out the two new characters first. We'll start with the Gohan, because he's going to be the more impressive and the priority in terms of having 2 red Zenkais in the game at the same time, brand new. So, checking him out, before Zenkai, just at 7 stars, he is looking at about relatively competitive stats even to this day. It's just his teams and passives haven't been quite up to par, or there's still been better options instead of this Gohan, just because of how strict his kit has been. After the Zenkai, a lot of that is going to change. He's going to be a much more flexible and a much more dangerous unit. Probably going to be seeing quite a bit of him moving forward in the future. We also have to consider that another LBR mode is up and coming. So briefly looking at him at 14 stars, you can see that after the Zenkai, he is pushing pretty much 300,000 blast attack. If you've been playing the game for a while, you have enough titles, you will be able to get this number over 300,000 blast attack, especially during LBR, or if you're like Goresh, who has a 14-star LF Gohan. So, stats outside of that for LBR mode are going to be looking mighty thick. He's got almost 200,000 to both defenses, 191k strike, 189k blast, almost 3 million health, 1.61 million power, which is actually higher than a 14-star Shallot's power. I don't think any other character in the game has that. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's pretty absurd. Now again, you can only see 14-star Shallot during LBR mode, but again, that's something that's about to happen again, so it's just to be considered. Dropping back down to a more realistic 7 stars, you're looking at 265 pretty much K blast attack and 235k pretty much strike attack, and 2.5 million health, 170-ish K on both defenses. Not bad, a little bit more toned down than the absurdity of what we're going to be looking at during this LBR mode, but still, he's going to be extremely powerful with all these buffs he has going on. Can kind of switch back and forth a little bit to compare base form to Zenkai, but for most of the stuff going on, they just kind of added numbers directly to the passives that he already had, and then gave him some nice new absurd passives as well. So for his ultimate here, not his ultimate, but his main ability, he gets the ultimate, that's not changed at all. Restores on health by 40% and ki by 70. That's up 10% on the heal and up 20 ki. He used to get 30% and 50 before Zenkai, so even more oppressive in terms of finishing out combos and dealing damage. Nullifies own unfavorable element factors for 20 counts if he has a defeated teammate. If you have someone else dead on your team, he will not have to worry about blue units. And that's pretty important, but it has not changed at all since the Zenkai. That's identical to the way it was before. I'll give it my best. This one, again, is very similar, but they did tweak a few things, one of which is extremely important. The 40% to damage inflicted and plus 30% to own ki recovery. Those have both been bumped up by, I believe, 10% each. Yes, that is correct. And there is something important that you do have to consider with these. Like, yes, you can get up to 80% damage inflicted and 60% to ki recovery, which is great. But if you are squaring up against a unit like Vegito Blue with the green card that removes all of your great buffs, or, you know, Green Beerus has a similar effect, the Rage Trunks with his ultimate arts, plenty of other characters that are able to remove these buffs, and as Gohan with the last man standing, you're not going to be able to get those back. So you definitely want to be careful and consider that in your strategy when you're squaring up, in those situations, to be very careful of that. Also, plus 100% to ultimate damage inflicted, which did not change from before. However, they've expanded this to just include Son family, not specifically only a Goku character. This opens up the unit for versatility much heavier across just hybrid Saiyans teams that don't include Goku at all. You can now very effectively run him with the red Super Saiyan 2 Zenkai Trunks, although he won't count, but you have the purple Super Saiyan 2 Zenkai Gohan, as well as, the blue Zenkai 7 Trunks, and yellow Gohan from the movies. There's the upcoming Hybrids banner with Transforming Goten on it. So there'll be plenty of options that you can use to get the full potential of this damage buff here without, again, having to have a Goku with him. But of course, it still works if you're just running a more specific Son family team, not hybrids. Turn Regret into power. -5 to own Blast Art's cost. Cannot be canceled. Reduces damage received by regeneration by 20%. I do believe both of those things are exactly the same as before. They are. They just buff the numbers right here. Plus 20% to damage inflicted for 20 counts every time you use a yellow card, which is up from 15 and 15. Again, extremely potent. With 4 yellow cards, you're doing an additional 80% to general damage. That'll carry over to his red cards as well for 20 counts. Again, that's fairly absurd. And again, this Gohan with all the stats he has now and all these buffs is going to be an extremely dangerous character. I'm actually not really looking forward to it because I probably won't immediately have him, but I'm sure I'll be fighting against him. Reduces damage received by 40% until combo ends when changing cover. That didn't change at all. Plus 30% to blast damage inflicted for 20 counts when activated. That did change. It was up 5%. So you're getting a little bit more damage. Just squeeze out every little bit they can. Just doing this for Gohan. Making them, shoot again right back up to the top of the meta. That's why I haven't really been sticking up with the tier lists or keeping up with them, because every week something significant is changing in the game with a new banner or a new significant Zenkai. So again, the tier list game has been very difficult. They don't stay accurate long enough to be really worth putting that amount of effort into. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. This is a little bit more exciting for the game and the roster, I guess, but definitely not for my wallet, though. All right, let's keep on. Inherited Power unlocks at Z3. 30% to blast damage inflicted against tag regeneration. Cannot be canceled. So now, not only does he have the defense buff, but he has a non-removable offensive buff too, which is great. It helps against all regeneration characters, not only Cell. Applies the following effects to allies per tag, hybrid, or Son family battle member other than this character when the character enters the battlefield. So not only will he get these buffs when he enters, if you're properly team building him, but if you have to instantly swap him in, and then the enemy gets hit and they're in the middle of a combo and they cover change into a different character, and then you immediately swap Gohan out, he'll also be supporting your other characters, up to 60% key recovery and up to 40% to damage of blast, yellow cards, for 20 counts. So again, it's a little bit of support. He's not really any type of you can't classify this Gohan as a support unit at all, but he does have now this small supportive feature. I think it's still going to be most effective for when it uses it on himself, but with that being said, again, squeeze out every little bit of value they can. Let Your Power Explode unlocks at Z6. Applies the following effects to self when 2 allied characters are defeated. So when he's in that last man standing or that anchor role, he will restore his health by 20%, and you combine that with his main ability, he's 60% healing there, although it doesn't really math out that way because you will get just a 40% heal and a 20% heal, so they don't just directly add up. But with that being said, that's still a lot of healing. 30% to damage inflicted, which cannot be removed. That's great because his other older last man standing buffs can be removed. At least one of them down here cannot. And it also will get rid of any stat debuffs or abnormal conditions like poison or paralyze. So that's also neat. Applies the following effects to self every time when faced with an enemy. So that's when he swaps in and is squared up against an enemy, or when the enemy swaps out and into a new enemy, he'll automatically get 40 ki back, or plus 25% to damage inflicted. Not or, and plus 25% to damage inflicted for 20 counts. So again, he has so many damage buffs and conditional damage, like on using yellow cards or who he's fighting, that it's really hard. It's like almost impossible for me to sit here and be like, well, you can get Gohan up to like 300% boosted damage. I'm not even really sure, because again, there's just so much different stuff going on here. Like, it's really hard to tell, but it's going to be absurd. He's going to be having massive damage buffs on top of just a massive stat pool. So again, extremely deadly character incoming. Strike attack blast, completely normal. Super Kamehameha, massive impact damage, inflicts enemy with a tribute downgrade. This is all the same as it was before, except for the massive damage modifier. So they have upped that. It used to be major. Unleashed Rage cancels on attribute downgrades, which was the same as before, but now it'll also get rid of, again, the poisons and the paralyzes that you might be looking at when fighting like Omega Shenron, DKP, stuff like that. Falling effects also occur based on his own remaining health. If it's above 50%, he gets 30% to blast damage inflicted. If it's below 50%, he gets 45% to blast damage inflicted, both for 20 counts. That is just both, they're both up 10% from what the green card used to do pre-Zenkai. His ultimate art deals massive impact damage, applies falling effects to self, an additional 50% to damage inflicted, so plus 150% if any Son family character is dead. It's going to be like one-shotting most characters in the game. He'll also have that type neutrality after summoning the ultimate art, so even blue characters are going to be pretty scared of this, and nullifies any endurance effects. That'll be great for using it against like the Z7 Kid Goku especially. He's particularly annoying on like high-tier teams you see really high up in PvP ranks. So it also still has blast armor. That part has not changed. But they did add the nullifies endurance. That was not there before, so that's great. And not too much else has changed. His Zenkai abilities here are a little bit concerning. It is worth noting that they only affect red Son family characters, which is like no other hybrids that you'd build him with at all. That's really only going to affect like some of the Goku characters that are pretty good. There's a few good red Gokus, but not really any other red Son family units that aren't Goku, that are just like hybrids, period. So maybe there will be in the future. Maybe the transforming Goten coming out will be like red. This will help him out. But until then, his Zenkai ability itself is actually not that useful. So with that being said, I think this character is going to be extremely valuable. There's really not too much else that needs to be said about him. If you run hybrids, I would definitely prioritize him. If you do not run hybrids at all, maybe you can skip, but the Legends Limited Zenkai units have been extremely impactful. Like Beerus is the only other one, but he was extremely impactful, and they're giving you ways to get some of his Awakening Z power for free with the Rush mode. So, I mean, I would definitely encourage everyone to at least check that out. Moving on to the Cell, we're at 13 minutes here, so we want to keep this motoring along. We don't want to waste too much time. The Cell, I do think, is much more of a side grade unit as compared to the Gohan. Like, the Gohan will definitely make and break hybrid teams. If you already have an extremely stacked regeneration team, I don't think this Cell is as necessary, but again, he's going to be great for like anti-Saiyans or Super Saiyans, but outside of that, you probably won't want to bring him. He'll be a good bench buffer too, of course, but you're looking at, for LBR mode specifically, or if you have him at 14 stars, pretty much the same blast attack as Gohan, like almost not noticeably different. It's very negligible. 262k strike attack, which is great. 181k on both defenses. 2.8 million health. So even though he's not the Legends Limited unit, his stats themselves are pretty impressive. Although his kit's not going to be as good as Gohan. Now, when you're looking at just a 7-star version, 262, it's kind of actually similar to the Gohan in terms of the numbers here. Again, just a little bit less. However, again, the Gohan has way more buffs going on, like ridiculously so. Time for the death blow. Before he Zenkai, this did literally nothing except for draw the ultimate arts. Now, he at least gets 20 ki back, guaranteeing that you'll be able to use it, and a 40% damage buff for 20 counts. So, infinitely better than what it was before. but not going to be nearly as effective as, again, like Gohan, who nullifies type immunity. So again, Gohan will still be relatively useful against Vegito Blue, whereas this cell is definitely not. So there's definitely something to be noted there. I would highly recommend prioritizing the Gohan over the Cell unless you are like a strict regeneration main. Dominant power level, 50% to blast damage inflicted against Tag, Saiyan, or Super Saiyan. So that'll actually include a good bit of the hybrids that are relevant in the game as well now. And it expands its usefulness. Before it was only Super Saiyan and not Saiyan. So now they've added this. It will make him considerably more useful. But if, again, this is what I mentioned before, if you're not squaring up against one of these two, you may not really, consider this to be a character you absolutely need for your team. Or, like you bring a Omega and DKP and Zenkai Buu instead and just leave this guy on the sidelines if you're like mirror matching or versus LOE or Frieza Force or something like that, movies. That being said, when it is Saiyan, Super Saiyan 1, you will have a nice little bit of extra damage buff to that near 300k blast attack if he's at 14 stars. Rising Terror applies the following effects to the enemy character. When Cell enters the battlefield, you will get plus 30% to damage received, the enemy will, and you will get plus 5 to all the arts cost. This is great versus any character that's not just straight up immune to this type of stuff. I don't know if anyone's immune. I guess that is like a tribute downgrade. So yeah, there are certain characters like Vegito Blue who may not really have too much problems with this. Like Zenkai 16 has, I think, 2 immunities as well. So, I don't know. That one's kind of situational. The enemy can also like immediately swap out of it. So like if you swap in to like beat up on a Rage Trunks, for example, then they immediately swap out, you will lose this. So there's that to consider also. Again, it's kind of why, there's not like a whole like paragraph here like there is for Gohan, and already this is very situational here. So, Inextinguishable Vitality unlocks at Adept. Z3, following effects occur every time the enemy vanishes your attack. You'll get a 20% defensive buff, which is good. Like say you get Perfect Vanished and beat on, you'll at least have that 20% defense buff for the whole combo. And the enemy will get minus 100% to ki recovery for 3 counts. This is very situationally useful here, I feel like. I don't even think Goresh kind of mentioned this, but if the enemy is just doing like a regular sidestep strike combo, this is really not going to help you out very much, especially if, again, Vegito Blue is to be considered because he's going to be gaining ki back for using those cards. But if the enemy does like do a combo like a blue card or like a green card into a blue card where they use like all of their ki up in one shot, and you actually have 3 seconds where they won't be getting ki back, in that situation, it will counter those heavy blue card hits quite nicely and leave your enemy with not too many options. But again, outside of that, for regular sidestep combos, the time limit really doesn't make this nearly as useful. Fearsome Perfect Form unlocks at Z6, applies the following effects to self when this character enters the battlefield. He'll get a 10% heal up to 3 times, 40% to damage inflicted for 15 counts, and 50% to ki recovery for 15 counts also. So basically this Cell is kind of like a character you want to be rotating in and out because you have the Rising Terror debuffs up here, and then you have this Fearsome Perfect Form. So he's like a debuffing character and some buffs to himself as well. So again, very rotationally oriented character. You want to be swapping him in and out a lot, which then also makes him like the complete opposite of Gohan, who's like last man standing. You don't really want this Cell to be your last unit left alive because you're going to lose out on pretty much like all of his kit here that makes him better than what he was before. So keep that in mind. This is a character that's going to want to swap around a lot and to want to have his attacks vanished. Like you can try and bait them out with tackles, with like the single tap punches or tap blasts, and if they vanish that, you can try and use that to your advantage. So again, very technical in terms of how you want to play him. Different than the other Red Cell that just came out, but that's a very technical unit too, with a very specifically different play style. This Cell is kind of similar in terms of how he's got a quirky play style. And again, I don't know, I think he's more of a side grade overall. Definitely, again, prioritize the Gohan. Reds and yellows, nothing out of the ordinary. Super Kamehameha, major impact damage, and minus 100% to sustain damage cut effects for 20 counts. That's pretty good that it lasts for a good little bit there. Green card, Torrential Key, Life in Peril. 20% to damage inflicted for 15 counts, and inflicts all enemies with minus 50% to health restoration. There's nothing really to complain about there. Perfect combination, massive impact damage, minus 100% to any sustained damage cut effects, and a 30% chance to inflict faint. Again, he's hugely upgraded to what he was before, but if you are a more budget player that doesn't main regen, I would definitely skip this one right here. He's not nearly as impressive, at least on paper. If it comes down to playtesting and he's actually just straight up crazy, you know, I mean, I'll put my foot in my mouth a little bit and take it back. But it seems like this one is more skippable than like Zenkai 16 or the Legends Limited Gohan even. Especially when you consider that you're going to have to be competing for those Super Souls, Rising Souls, and the Zenkai Souls for both Gohan and Cell here. So, Red and Tag Regeneration, arguably much more useful than Gohan's Z-buffs now, because you have Shenron to consider and then the other new Cell. So, again, more useful in this regard than the Gohan, but that's only because of the hybrid situation, not having too many other red units. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the Zenkai units. They are pretty good. Cell is pretty good. Gohan is flat out amazing. I think he's going to be ridiculous. So, very quickly, we can look at the return of some events here. The Cell Games is coming back. That's where you get the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's Platinum equipment, which is awakening now and becoming even better than what it was before. So that'll be back. That'll be definitely worth considering doing. I don't know if they're going to reset it like they did the Raditz event recently, how they just kind of wiped everyone's progress and you had to start over, or if you will just be able to jump back in without them having really changed too much. Because they're also releasing a 51 stage new Cell event, which will have some new regeneration equipments that are quite good. I'm assuming some titles and stuff like that as well. Ooh, we get to fight Gohan and Cell here. That'll be fun. Alright, so yeah, droppable item. There's a new piece of equipment here for regen from this event. That's extremely good. Base strike attack up to 12.5%. Blast attack up to 15%. And special move and ultimate damage up to 10 each. And it can just be used by anybody on regeneration. So this is definitely worth farming quite a few copies of, up to as good as you can get them. And then again, 1,000 Chrono Crystals, so nothing to really complain about there. Don't want to push the video out too much longer, but that's all for the events. However, the upcoming Space-Time Rush is going to be reworked. This is the one that, I don't know if it's permanently going to be like this, or if it's just because of the Gohan and its tie-in with that, but yeah, unless DBZ Space is wildly wrong here, which I don't think it is, I think it's accurate, this event is going to have, again, a good bit of reworking. Like only one fight on Rush 1, and then up to, 10 fights on Rush 5, but it like scales up. So, okay, whatever. Now, there is no rewards here specifically for summoning on the Zenkai Gohan banner. So more than likely, it's just going to be exchanging these Rush medals for his power. We'll have to check that exchange shop when it becomes available. So that's cool. Old events returning for certain equips. Diamond, Platinum one. We actually didn't look at that. So we'll go back to the events real quick. I kind of want to look at that. We'll go down here to stage, what, 50? No, that's the Beerus equip. What is going on here? Oh, there was 100 stages in this one. There we go. So this one awakens to now this. Awaken, Believe in Yourself, Gohan number 1. Health restoration up to 15%, up to 12.5% to strike and blast defense per Son family battle member, which again can be used on hybrids, just not with Trunks in mind. Keep that in mind. But that's up to what, like 25% there to each defense, which is great, especially considering how high his stats are already. Base strike attack and base blast attack. Strike attack up to 25%, which covers for Gohan being a blast-based character. It'll even out those numbers. And then you'll get the extra 12.5 up to for blast attack too. With this equip on the Zenkai 7 Gohan, again, he's going to be doing like ridiculous stuff. I could just say that over and over again, but you know, I can't really verbally emphasize how ridiculous it's going to be. You're just going to have to play test it and see. He's going to be slaughtering pretty much everybody, I think. I don't even know if Zenkai 16 is really going to be able to stand up against him. It's just going to probably just nuke him also. Alright, so now we've covered the events, the equipment. Just a couple of summons to look at. I do believe that's everything. We're not going to look at Happy Weekend or Proud to Fight. Those have been out for a while here. We got the upcoming Zenkai banner for Gohan here with the Chrono Crystals, so people will buy their way straight through that. 7,000 crystals, 14,000 if you want to do both of them. And there's a Gohan step up, mini step up. You could most compare this to like the Piccolo one that we just saw, like very recently, except the Gohan has a higher drop rate. He's up to 0.5%. Even the Piccolo on the Legends Return Piccolo banner we just saw in Legends Limited Unit, he was 0.25% chance. So they have buffed the drop rate of Gohan on this banner, again to coincide with him being a Legends Limited and a Zenkai, which is nice of them to do. It'd be cool if they put it up to this number, but okay, it doesn't matter for me. Mine's already 7 stars. I'm trying to advocate for you all out there that don't have him up to 7 stars. The banner itself is great if you're, again, a hybrids main. The only just like Son family character on here is like Goku, I guess. The rest of them are just all hybrids. 2 other Zenkai units on here. They're both really good. This Gohan's really good. The Goten, or Gotenks, is really good for fusions. I don't know if I'd really run him on hybrids. But, yeah, the banner itself is not awful. I'm not going to summon on it at all. Not even a single Chrono Crystal, but my Gohan, again, is 7 stars already. If you're a hybrids main, I would probably consider that. Other than that, I don't think there is like this new banner with tickets coming out, which I think is just like use a ticket, get a sparking. I'm not sure what the conditions are to get these tickets, but this is a banner that's got a pool of sparking so large on it that you can just cross your fingers and hope you get something that's relevant for you. There's just a lot of units on here, so it's very unpredictable what you actually might get for yourself. No tickets for Zenkai Gohan or anything like that, so it must just be in the exchange shop. That'll be like the free-to-play player's way to get it. Unless something else pops up, I think that's it. I do believe we've covered everything. There's going to be some login bonuses and other stuff too. Maybe some new sales, but outside of that, I think we've covered everything important. I would recommend that if you're not a hybrids main, to probably still continue to focus your attention on this step up, because Gohan is on here too, so you can kind of more slowly work your way there. Some better options for other teams besides just hybrids, but again, that's entirely up to you and what you are trying to do with your game. Hopefully y'all will be able to have good luck getting your Gohan Zenkai, getting him to 7 stars. Outside of that, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a thumbs up on it. Help spread it out so more people can see it. And I'll definitely be catching you again real soon. Maybe with some Avengers content, maybe with some Zenkai Gohan content. I doubt it though, because 7,000 Chrono Crystals. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll be able to get there, but definitely not immediately. I'm no Goresh or Ryuden over here in terms of the budget for the game. So with that said, I do hope you all have a great morning or evening, and leave me your comments down below with your thoughts on these new characters, the update, everything else they have going on. And with that said, peace out. We'll see you real soon.